In the last 3 years, I've personally generated over $1 million of window cleaning jobs, all sold door to door. You've seen the live sales and the success stories on social media, but today I want to give you the raw behind the scenes look at exactly what I had to do to get here. My name is Nick Gaines, and this is my story. Growing up in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I came from a pretty typical middle-class family. However, I was always entrepreneurial. When I was a kid, I got my first experience knocking doors selling Boy Scout popcorn door to door, as well as homemade rainbow loom bracelets, amongst other side hustles like trading sports cards, and then when I was 11, trading virtual items on a video game called Rocket League, and actually made over $6,000 in profit over the course of 2 summers doing that. And as a 7th grader with $6K in the bank, I felt like a complete millionaire. But then reality hit. In the summer of 2020, when I had first started driving, I got into a car accident and lost almost all of my money. $5,000 gone in an instant. And so although I was only 16 and I didn't necessarily need to have everything figured out, I was now flat broke, mentally at my lowest, dealing with anxiety and depression, physically at my unhealthiest. I was 130 pounds soaking wet. I was super skinny, and my parents were separating. I was at the lowest point in my life. I knew I had to make a change. I started going to the local Planet Fitness and became obsessed with making progress in the gym. I went from hating myself to having real pride in who I was becoming. And that mindset shift changed everything. And I became totally obsessed with self-development. I started getting into crypto investing, and I was pouring every last dollar I was making delivering pizzas at the time back into crypto, which is when I realized if I was gonna make any money investing in crypto, I needed to make more money to put into crypto. I needed to make more money, which is when I started my first official business, a mobile car detailing business. And it was perfect. It's a service-based business with low startup costs that's relatively easy to learn and is a service that pretty much everyone wants and needs. And after doing semi-okay for my first couple months, making 4 to 5 to 6K a month doing it, I broke my collarbone in a mountain biking crash. And now detailing was out of the picture. Because I was doing everything myself, without my right arm, I couldn't detail cars anymore. And so I was officially out of business with just 2 months before everyone's going off to college. For the longest time, I debated if I wanted to go to college or not, knowing that ultimately I did want to be an entrepreneur and I didn't want to get the results that most people that went to college got. But ultimately I decided to give it a try to see if it was something that I could make work while still pursuing entrepreneurship at the same time. And so I ended up going. But after 3 weeks, I called my dad and I told him that I had realized that I would rather totally fail at what I wanted to do with my life than succeed at going to college, getting a degree, graduating with a piece of paper, and ending up with $100,000+ in debt for something I didn't want to do in the first place. And he heard the conviction in my voice and he said, okay, you need to do this. And that was all I needed to hear. And so that very day, I went and I checked out of all of my classes, and a couple days later, I was on the way back home. And the day I left campus, I went to lunch with a couple of my friends who were in similar situations. And we talked about how we'd seen these guys online selling window cleaning door to door, making like $1,000+ per day doing it. Less than 24 hours later, one of those friends showed up at my house with $50 worth of equipment from Home Depot and asked me if I was ready to get started. So we went out and knocked doors in my neighborhood. And within the first hour, we had sold 3 jobs for a total of $700. And immediately we were hooked because realistically, we had no idea what we were doing. And the first window we cleaned looked worse than before we started. But after a series of YouTube searches and trial and error, we got the first job cleaned and collected, making all $150 in pure net profit. And we immediately realized this opportunity was going to make us rich. And thankfully, we were smart enough to realize that instead of trying to figure it out ourselves, we would be far better off and make way more money way faster if we invested in a mentor who had already succeeded at this business model. And that's what we did. And although we literally couldn't even afford it when we first got on the call to learn more about the program, we spent the next week grinding our butts off to make enough to invest in the program and forked over every last dollar we had made to get inside. And now 3 years and 7 figures in revenue later, I can confidently guarantee that that was the best decision I had ever made. In our first full month of October, we did over $32,000 in sales and almost $27,000 in pure profit. And just 6 weeks later, we collected our first $100,000. From there, we did roughly $40,000 to $50,000 per month throughout the winter. And going into the next summer, we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, a completely different city, started over from scratch and rebuilt our business there. We rented a big house there. We brought in sales reps to live there and to continue to grow and build as a team. However, eventually throughout the course of that summer, both of my partners left to pursue other ventures, which was hard personally, but really exciting business-wise. And since going solo, I not only maintained our existing success, but I actually doubled it. And by the following summer, had scaled well over $100,000 $1,000 a month, with 15 to 20K profit weeks during the summer becoming normal. And my personal record selling window cleaning door to door is $5,079.33, sold within 6 hours and cleaned and collected that very same day, purely from door to door sales. No referrals, no ads, no yard signs, just the skills. And to date, I've generated well over $1 million in sales, all from knocking on strangers' doors. But those numbers aren't what fulfill me the most. It's seeing the lives I've been able to change in the process. I had sales guys making their first $10,000 profit months, buying their first cars, and going from unconfident and gaining communication skills and real confidence that they'll have forever. And one of my guys, Caleb, even told me at the end of the summer, "Hey, I don't want to be corny or anything, but you've seriously changed my life." And he told me he'd never be able to go back to a 9-to-5 job. And that's when I realized this business didn't just change my life. It gave me the ability to change others too. And it absolutely blows my mind that there's still people looking for online money-making opportunities when you could go knock on people's doors and go home that same day with a couple thousand in cash. It might be one of the simplest business models on earth. And I'm not saying that it's easy. It's hard facing rejection. But if you can learn to push through it, not only will you develop resilience, but there is no limit on the amount of money that you can make as long as you work hard and continue learning. A few years ago, I was a college dropout who was broker than broke. I wasn't just at zero, but I was actually a few $1,000s in debt from the 3 weeks of going to school. And now at 21, I'm living the life that I've always dreamed of. I'm not special, and I promise you it's not that I just work harder than anyone else. Yes, I've worked hard, but people at McDonald's work hard. I just work hard at the right thing. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how old you are, or where you come from. It just matters how many times someone can slam a door in your face and you keep going. And if you resonated with this story at all, hit the subscribe button, because I'll be sharing everything that I've learned on how to build a successful window cleaning business right here on this channel. And if you're that hungry person like I was 2 years ago and you're looking to get your first real taste of money outside of your minimum wage job, I'll be hosting for the first time ever a free live masterclass teaching everything A to Z that you need to know to get your foot in the door and start making upwards of $1,000 per day in net profit. And so if you want to check that out, the training will be September 10th at 7 p.m. EST, and I'll leave a link in the description so you can grab your free invite. That being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.